You're welcome to The Gavel. I'm Linda Akibi. The presidential and National Assembly elections are over, but we are still seeing the fallout of the elections. Now, there were several problems during the elections, ranging from late arrival of Inec officials and election materials to violence, ballot box and beaver snatching, and voter intimidation, as well as a failure of electoral umpire Inec to upload election results on its viewing portal. Now, this has prompted several civil society organizations who have described the elections as a missed opportunity and calling for an audit of Inec and reform of also Inec. Now, however, some political actors and the ruling APC are saying that the elections were conducted fairly. The National Assembly resumed plenary on Tuesday, February 28th, and federal legislators had a thing or two to say about the elections.
It's a sparsely filled Senate chamber as federal lawmakers resume after a break to take part in the presidential and National Assembly elections. Legislative proceedings hold amidst anxiety in the country as opposition political parties and some non-state actors question the integrity of the elections after the electoral umpire Inec failed to upload election results on its viewing portal after voting ended. There's also been outcry over violence, ballot box and beaver snatching during the elections. The President of the Senate, Senator Ahmed Lawan, is mindful of the state of the nation as he addresses his colleagues.
Elections of this nature will normally have the results that sometimes are very clear, sometimes not as clear, sometimes not clear at all. We are very optimistic and hopeful that the votes of our citizens must count. The votes must count. Inec in all the senatorial districts, federal constituencies, and across the country in various states must ensure that the votes of Nigerians count. People trooped out under sometimes extreme conditions to cast their votes. Those votes must count. Nigerians must be the sole determinants of who leads them, who represents them. With this very brief remark, I want to congratulate our colleagues who have won their elections. But I want to also say that for our colleagues who are not able to win in the way that we had hoped, this is not the end of the road for anyone. We have still so much roles to play in the running of our country. We have amassed so much experience here that any government would like to have our experience put into use, whether it is at this level or at the state level. But at this level is where our experience is largely needed. So we congratulate all of us because we have something that this country will always need.
A federal lawmaker also draws the attention of the Senate to the controversies raised from the elections. The floor then opens for a debate.
The provision of the transfer of result from PU is for the polling officers to snap the result announced at the PU and transfer same to Inec server upon availability of network, but not transmission in real time. This is the provision of the Electoral Act which we passed. That the Electoral Act and Inec guideline provide for the collation of results and final announcement to be done by the chief returning officers as far as the presidential election. That the Electoral Act provides for any person that is dissatisfied with the announced result to seek redress in the court and not to engage in any other unlawful action. This Senate is concerned with the various comments and actions by individuals on the
Sorry?
ongoing process of collation
Just hold on,
and
you have your
announcement
day.
of presidential election. The Senate is worried of the potential effect of such comment and action to the peace, welfare, and progress of this country. The Senate is therefore urged to resolve to urge all political actors, leaders, and all Nigerians to remain calm, law-abiding, and allow the process of collation and announcement of the result of the presidential election held on 25th day of February 2023. The Senate should urge Inec to conduct its responsibility of collation and announcement of the presidential election in line with the guidelines for the conduct of the election.
There is no doubt that as the upper chamber, we need to also have a voice in whatever is happening within the country. However, this process is still an ongoing process. It is on, it has not ended. And there is no serious crisis other than to ask the INEC to follow its own guidelines and the Electoral Act. Simple. There is no reason for us to play to the gallery or to pretend that we're holier than others. We should not ignite violence.
No, I don't think there's anybody who suggested.
Is for
I
us
think you are on
to
the right
just
track.
round it up.
Nobody is
and
going to
ask everybody to maintain peace and order while we go through this process and finish it properly.
Mr. President, most of us here, apart from a few of us who didn't contest elections, cannot sit in judgment in what is happening in Nigeria today. And we cannot interpret the law because we are not the judiciary. Mr. President, like you rightly pointed out, if we have to say anything at all, we should just appeal to Nigerians for calm while the proper thing is done. And INEC has to do the proper thing. Nobody can come here and tell us that the BVAS machine was not supposed to transmit results. It was supposed to transmit results direct, supported with a photograph of the result. And there is no way you can collate results without having your BVAS total in your server. In every collation point in Nigeria, there is a technology person that is stationed in the collation center whose responsibility is to make sure that the BVAS numbers tally with the result numbers. And so if INEC sits down here and is reporting results without tallying it with the numbers in the VS, it's wrong.
As a parliament and the upper parliament in this National Assembly, it is our duty to stabilize the polity by the pronouncements we make in the parliament, to calm the nerves, the frayed nerves of people that are agitated one way or the other as a result of the last election that just happened on 25th February. We are not here to make incendiary remarks here that will cause any disease. We are here to appeal to our people to follow the law. And we're asking all the agencies of government that are also involved in this electioneering to also ensure that they follow strictly sensu or what the law stipulates, both the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, both the Electoral Act of 2022 amended, and the law. That's all we are saying here, so that the elections at the end of the day will come out of it. Anyway, it must come, once you go for election, it must go either one way or the other. And anywhere it goes that it doesn't, we have opportunity to go to law courts, the tribunal, to canvass and ensure that we right the wrongs.
There are just three issues on this. One, accreditation and verification to be done by the BVAS. And in that case, it's real time. How is it real time? When you accredit, every time there is, maybe after getting like 20, 30 names, it's sent back to the back-end server. That is done clearly, which is completely different from where an election result, we are not voting electronically for that real-time effect of transfer to happen or transmission to happen. Transmission can only happen in the case of results, after it has been published on the Vibas, how is it published? Like you having your phone and taking the picture and then send. So it's not real time. It's not real time. It's publishing. It's publishing. But it has been uploaded. It has uploaded automatically. It's there in the back end of server. Wait now, you want clarification and you're arguing. You want clarification and you're arguing. What are you arguing for? Go ahead. What are you arguing for? You want clarification. If you are not convinced with the clarification, go to court. Your Excellency.
Please, Senator Ademi, you just walked in. Please.
Your Excellency.
Listen to what is happening.
Your Excellency, we know that we are not in court to interpret what we have passed as a law. We have already passed that as a law. We are not a court to interpret. But Inec has the responsibility to give out a guideline. And they have not breached anything in the guideline. What I'm saying is that it's a simple process. And that process, after publishing, they send it to back-end servers. And when it is at the back-end servers of the Inec, it is at that point that Inec can decide now to publish it and put it on the IREP or not. And if they don't put it on the IREP, from what we have read so far, Inec have been attacked 160 times. 160 times. And nobody is making any issue about that.
The Senate should not involve itself in even the call for calm. Time has not come. Please, you should remember, the elections have come, and in fact they have gone. And you know, whatever happens at the collation centers and the social media, we should not, the Senate should not involve itself. Not to talk about asking members, senators, to interpret the law. Our job has been done and finished with. We passed the Electoral Act. You said it yourself. And for goodness sake, if we don't step down this thing, there will be endless controversy on party lines, and God knows what it will generate in the public domain.
Even before the motion is being moved, you can see the controversy. People are interpreting it along party lines. The best way is to step down this act, because let's not lean on Inec in doing their job. Let's not lean on them in any way. Let's just step it down, because on this floor is generating this kind of controversy, imagine what will happen out there when the motion is passed. Even if it's advised, people will misinterpret it.
In its resolution, the Senate urges the Independent National Electoral Commission to abide by the dictates of the law guiding the collation and announcement of results, and appeals to all political actors, electorate and Nigerians to remain calm and law-abiding. Meanwhile, in the House of Representatives, the Speaker is calling for resistance to those seeking to exploit this moment of tension for their own ends. Expressing his opinion during the resumption of plenary in the lower chamber, the Speaker is optimistic that the country will be at peace in the end.
We will defeat the cynicism of those waiting to see their worst predictions for our country become real. Nigeria will be at peace because we will work through the law and due process to resolve differences, settle disputes, and ensure the peaceful transition of power.
In the meantime, the Speaker says the work of governance continues in the House of Representatives as the 9th Assembly winds down, and that the House will also begin to prepare transition notes at the committee levels as earlier proposed.
You're welcome back to the gavel. Now, some Nigerians are still pondering over the results of the presidential and National Assembly elections, while states are preparing for the governorship elections. Now, the 2022 Electoral Act was critical in the just concluded presidential and National Assembly elections, as the legislation was expected to guide the electoral process. Now, some may have forgotten how tense and difficult the process in passing the legislation and the role state and non-state actors played in seeing to the passage of the important bill. In this report, we look back at the journey to the passage of the 2022 Electoral Bill. The Electoral Act Amendment Bill was one of the most polarizing pieces of legislation in the 9th Assembly. Many Nigerians yearned for the passage of this bill, believing it will sanitize elections, which have been overwhelmed with violence, ballot box snatching, underage voting, and cash for votes. The journey to the passage of the Electoral Act bill in the 9th Assembly was full of intrigue, fraught with tension, and a high-stakes endeavour. The 9th National Assembly had promised to amend the Electoral Act as part of its legislative agenda. In 2020, the Senate and House of Representatives committees on Inec kick-started the process, calling for input from the public and civil society organizations on the bill. After several meetings and consultations between the Joint Committee and state and non-state actors, a report on the bill was finally prepared and presented in both houses for passage. But on the day scheduled for passage in both houses, Clause 52, subsection 3 on electronic transmission of results caused a huge strain, setting lawmakers from the ruling party against their colleagues in the opposition party. Section 52, subsection 3 of the report in the Senate stated that the Commission may transmit results from elections by electronic means where and when practicable. But an amendment to the clause caused a rift among lawmakers, causing a division. Leading to a division.
Mr. President, I would like to amend Clause 52(3). And I would like to amend as follows. The Commission may consider electronic transmission of results, provided the national network coverage is adjudged to be adequate and secure by the National Communication Commission and approved by the National Assembly. This is my amendment.
Mr. President, I still insist. We want Nigerians to know who has voted or not.
The votes were cast, counted, and the majority voted to amend Clause 52 by empowering the Nigerian National Communications Commission to determine the use of electronic means to transmit election results.
So if you think we should retain what is here, you will vote yes. If you think what we have passed before the amendment of Senator Sabi, then you vote against this one. Is that clear?
Yeah, put the question.
Okay, I'll put the question. And the amendment, please, for the avoidance of doubt. For the avoidance of doubt, the way it is written here is the Commission may transmit results of elections by electronic means where and when practicable. This is the amendment. So if you don't want it, I will put the question now. Those in favor that Clause 52(3) as amended by Senator Basi Akpan, say aye. Those against say nay. The nays have it.
The consideration of the Electoral Act Amendment Bill, particularly Clause 52, was more acrimonious in the House, prompting the Speaker to invite the Nigerian Communications Commission and the electoral umpire Inec to speak on their preparedness to transmit election results electronically.
It's only 3G that could give that kind of cover. I mean, that could give that kind of transmission.
Okay.
In full, I mean.
Okay. So
yes,
only 3G
yes,
can adequately transmit.
Yes,
only 3G.
Yes. The polling units that fell under 3G coverage. Let's just say the stations that had 3G coverage came to about 50%.
The House eventually passed the bill and retained Clause 52, which empowers INEC to decide on the best means to transmit election results. But 3 months later, on October 12, 2021, the Senate made a U-turn and gave INEC free rein to determine the procedure of transmission of results during elections.
Voting at an election and transmission of results under this bill shall be in accordance with the procedure determined by the Commission.
Those in favor of Clause 52 as amended, say aye. Aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it.
But on 21st December 2021, President Buhari wrote to the National Assembly declining assent to the electoral bill, citing the cost of conducting direct primary elections, security challenges, and possible manipulation of electoral processes by political players as part of the reasons for his decision.
The conduct of direct primaries across the 8,809 wards across the length and breadth of the country will lead to a significant spike in the cost of conducting primary elections by parties, as well as increase in the cost of monitoring such elections by Inec. In addition to increased costs identified above, conducting and monitoring primary elections across 8,809 wards will pose huge security challenges, as the security agencies will also be overstretched, and such large turnout without effective security coordination will also engender intimidation and disruptions, thereby raising credibility issues for the outcomes of such elections.
The Senate and House of Representatives re-amended the bill and harmonized their versions of Clause 84 to include direct, indirect, and consensus primary methods of electing candidates. On February 25th, 2022, President Buhari finally signed the Electoral Act Amendment Bill into law. Now, this is where we call it a day on this week's edition of The Gavel. If you have any views on any of the issues discussed, please email us on thegavel@channelstv.com. Thank you for staying with us, and see you again next week.